right. So welcome from vTechio, Chris McDaniel, Chief Revenue Officer here, and we are. I'm sure you all know about us at some level because you're on this call. Been around since '97 though, so not a new company. One of the leaders in AI, cybersecurity, data center infrastructure, and Microsoft as well. And so we have a really robust Microsoft ecosystem. We partner with one of the largest distributors in the world, TD SYNNEX, as well as Microsoft directly. That's how we met Andrew, who is going to be presenting today from Toronto. And we worked with Andrew quite a bit on various levels of Microsoft. And so we knew this would be a hot topic. This is an area that seems to be a lot of learning to be had, right, Andrew?
Yeah,
Security
for sure.
component. And so um, excited to have everybody today. If you have questions, send them through the chat so that Andrew can get through the material. We'll give you a recording after as well. And then if we have time for Q&A at the end, we'll do that. So Andrew, welcome and
Yeah.
thank you again for being here.
Oh, I appreciate it, Chris. And even though I am currently outside of the city, home to the 2019 World NBA champion Toronto Raptors, it is always a
Oh,
pleasure.
you had to throw that in there. I
uh,
like that.
I got to grab hold of whatever I can.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, with for myself and for those in my team, and as Chris alluded to, even in our collaborations with vTechio, we are looking to provide uh, as much info as possible in this era of AI to small and medium-sized businesses everywhere, right? Globally, and in my case, specific to the US. And so I'm hopeful that you're going to hear something that if you've heard it before, that it's going to just provide some validation, and maybe you'll hear something new. If there are questions that you have, love to hear them. As Chris has said, you can put them in the chat. They'll let me know when there's a question there that I can address. And I'll do the best that I can to have some time at the end. But this is content that really takes even longer than an hour, but I've condensed it so that it makes sense. Okay, so let me just leave it at that and get into things here. Let me start with this first, just to set a foundation. I'm hopeful that everybody present today is familiar with Microsoft 365 Copilot. And if you don't have a license already, then that's a conversation that the folks at vTechio would love to have with you. But even having said that, not having a license does not mean you can't start working with Copilot today because there is a web version. But let me also provide you with a cautionary note. The free web version is just that, free web version, not designed for business. And so just to try it out and get familiar with how Copilot works, that's okay. Do not copy and paste any business sensitive information into that tool. There is a protected business version on the web. In order for you to have access to that, you have to be working with a Microsoft 365 license. So that means if you have a business basic or a business standard or a business premium or an E3 or an E5, any of those allows you to start working with Copilot on the web, and that will be a protected version designed by Microsoft for you to use. But the full experience is available to you with a license. So there is a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, which is an add-on, and there is also a new Microsoft 365 Copilot Business license, which is also an add-on. The difference between the two is nothing about the feature set or functions. It's all about who can use it. So what you're looking at here, Copilot Business Bundles. If you are going to be adding to your existing Microsoft 365 stable of licenses, if that's something that you're about to do or planning to do, and you have fewer than 300 users, you're going to want to actually hone in on the Copilot business bundles. Because instead of getting a, for instance, business premium license, and then getting a separate Copilot license. You don't have to do that anymore. Microsoft has now bundled the license technology of Copilot with the Copilot Business, Basic, Standard, and Premium licenses. So that's what you're looking at here. And if you notice at the bottom where the prices are down there, where it says $22 for the Business Standard Copilot Business bundle, but to the left of that, Business Basic Copilot Business is showing $27. That doesn't compute. Basic math doesn't work there. Why is Standard less than Basic? Notice there is an asterisk because the $22 is a promotional price that Microsoft is offering, and you can grab that for what time is left. It expires at the end of June. So that's why it costs less. But as of July 1st, then the price is going to go up again, and it will at that point cost more than the Business Basic Copilot Business bundle. All right, so I just wanted to provide that clarification. So you can get, preferably, because we're talking about AI, it actually makes better sense to focus your attention on the business premium because it already includes some advanced security features that don't exist with Business Standard and Business Basic. But the Premium plus Copilot bundle is available, and you can take advantage of that as well. So I wanted to share that with you. You don't have to get Copilot separately. You can get it bundled. The other thing is the Microsoft 365 E7. If you haven't heard of that, welcome. It was announced, made generally available May the 1st. And so now there is an E7. Why did they skip E6 and go from E5 to E7? I don't have that answer for you. But just know that there is now a Microsoft 365 E7, which includes what you see there. It is an E5 license with even more stuff, right? It's got the Copilot license. It's got the Entra Suite, which is for access, protecting and managing access to different files and domains. And then Microsoft Agent 365, that is when you start to have so many Copilots, you need something to help you manage them. So E7, although any business can make use of it and find benefit from it, it really wasn't designed with SMB in mind per se. It really is well, I mean, it's an E7, so E for enterprise. It's an enterprise class subscription. As an SMB, if you think you can maximize the feature set that comes with it and you want to invest in it, by all means, but just be aware that it does exist, and it's not a requirement that you get this out of the box, but just wanted to make you aware of that. All right, and the other thing that I'm going to share is that prompting was important. Prompting is still important. And as you start to make investments in AI, and as you start to roll out technologies, AI technologies, and hopefully Copilot into your environments, you want to make sure that the users are going to use it, and they'll use it if they understand the importance of prompting. That is a skill set now that you want to make sure that is developed among your staff and employees. If anyone is interested in the slide deck afterwards, there are some active links here that you'll find beneficial. But prompting, knowing
And Andrew,
how...
one component on that too is we have our vTechio offers a prompt engineering academy that individuals can take advantage of. If you'd like to learn more about that, we both do individuals or enterprise level for that. So just a quick good tidbit there.
So there you have it. That's how important it is. So vTechio is going to help you with that. Now, did you know some of the things that concern businesses about AI? You've got your concerns, and there are other organizations like yourselves, believe it or not, who have similar concerns. Maybe they even have more concerns, right? So insiders matter. As a for instance, 1 in 5 data security incidents are caused by people inside the organization, intentional or accidental. Speed wins for attackers as well. The median time to fall for a phishing email is under 60 seconds, compressing the window to detect and respond. And then SMBs are affected, and the stakes are very high, not just a little bit high. They're very, very high. Nearly half of small and mid-sized businesses report breaches, and the global cost of cybercrime continues to rise. So as we move forward to talk about how Microsoft Security can help, keep these facts front and center. Insiders and phishing clicks drive many incidents. Breaches are common for smaller organizations, and the cost of inaction is very, very real. The data shows SMBs face the same threat patterns as larger companies, but with fewer people and less time to respond. In fact, small businesses are 4 times more likely to be victims of cybersecurity breaches than larger organizations, and that's according to some industry reporting. Verizon is the author of this piece of info. So attackers go where the path of least resistance is. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Where there's limited security staff, fragmented tools, and budgets that have been stretched. That means a single phishing click or a misconfigured cloud can quickly turn into someone's login credentials being stolen or data exposure. When incidents happen, the clock is unforgiving and the cleanup falls on a small team. This is the reality many SMBs face every day. The same threats, but less time and fewer hands to stop them. Having said all of that, which wasn't a lot because there's so much more, but just so we can keep things moving here, a lot more could be said. But today's security challenges are complex and they're evolving fast, and almost everybody knows that. That's why Microsoft has focused solutions around the areas where customers are feeling the most pressure. First, let's consider automating your security because security operations teams can become overwhelmed with too many tools, too many alerts, and not enough time. If that doesn't apply to your company, you're ahead of the curve, and that's great. But most small and medium-sized businesses still need to secure their operations by consolidating fragmented tools into a unified experience, and then use AI to achieve the speed and the scale that defenders really need. That means fewer silos, better signal correlation, and faster, more confident response. The second thing is to think about protecting your data more effectively. How to phrase that? Well, more effectively from the standpoint that if the attackers are coming at you with AI-powered tools, then it makes sense to make sure that you also have AI-powered tools to repel those attacks, to defend against those attacks. Microsoft can help you not only protect sensitive data, but also govern how it's used, how it's shared, and how it's stored. It's about reducing risk without slowing down your business. I'm not going to speak to every point that you see in this slide, but if you're already running Microsoft 365 Business Premium, you've laid a pretty strong foundation because you have access to use identity controls, device management, and basic email and endpoint protections. From that baseline, you can tighten your security when you introduce AI into your environment without having to do any retooling. And that's key for a lot of SMBs. And you can keep the overall experience familiar for your users and for your technical admins. And so Business Premium is the hero SKU. It continues to be the hero SKU from Microsoft for SMBs. If you have any Business Basic licenses, if you're running any Business Standard licenses, if you have any F1 licenses, if those are specific, have a specific need for specific users, then by all means. But where you can, I guess, have users on something like a business premium, you do want to take a look at that or reassess that requirement. If you're already there, however, great. That's the sweet spot where you want to remain. And so I'm not going to necessarily speak to each of these here, but business premium, if I summarize everything, it does offer more from a security standpoint than what you're going to get if you have a business standard or a business basic, right? This really is what you can look at as your secure baseline for all of your users as we get further and deeper into this era of AI. And obviously, if you are serious about wanting to introduce AI into your environment, or if perhaps you already have, but maybe most of your users are on something less than a business premium, like a basic or standard, you want to eventually optimize everything and get them to business premium. Nothing wrong with an E3 or an E5, by the way. E3 license is fantastic, E5 license is fantastic, but they do cost more than a business premium. And if the number of users we're talking about is substantially lower than 300, then why not business premium, right? It's capped at 300 users. If you've only got 10, 20, 50, 100, even 200 users, 250, anything up to three, business premium is really the sweet spot, the hero SKU for yourself and businesses like you as well. So it comes with integrated security. It offers more than what you're going to find in the other business licenses, as I've said. And for AI protection, you need to take an interest in that because it matters. And that's why there's now a Defender suite for Business Premium and a Purview suite for Business Premium. If you've heard of Purview or if you've heard of Defender, great. But Purview is a brand or a family of products. Defender is a brand or a family of products. And within each of those brands, you have tools that include the name Purview or include the name Defender. And so within the Defender family, there's something called Defender Suite. But there is also something called Defender Suite for Business Premium. Now you say, well, what's the difference? Well, just think of how Microsoft typically markets a lot of their products. Something for business, something for enterprise. As I said off the top, there is Microsoft 365 Copilot. If I didn't clarify this, I'll do this right now. Copilot for enterprise, and then there's Copilot Business for SMB. Likewise, when we're talking about Defender Suite, there's Defender Suite for E3, which is the enterprise, and then there's Defender Suite for Business Premium, which is for Business Premium. And so that's the distinction. If you are looking to get Defender Suite, just make sure you clarify with your vTechio rep which one is appropriate because there is a cost saving involved. That's the distinction. If you're using Business Premium, then yes, you ought to be placing an order for Defender Suite for Business Premium or Purview Suite for Business Premium because they are more cost effective, they're less expensive than if you just get Defender Suite or Purview Suite. That's the distinction. Microsoft has done that intentionally once again, just so that these solutions are more readily accessible and attainable and affordable for SMB businesses. So Defender Suite, it's an add-on and it adds AI-driven detection and automated disruption across endpoints, email, and identities to reduce risk and response time. Essentially what you're doing here, if I use this analogy, is you're protecting the vault, right? If we think of your business as a vault, a bank vault, then Defender Suite is about protecting that bank vault. Purview Suite, on the other hand, adds automatic classification and sensitivity labels, DLP across email, Teams, SharePoint, endpoint, insider risk analytics, and e-discovery audit for regulatory readiness. If you're not a part of the IT side of things, perhaps you've glazed over, as I said, all of that. That's okay. I'm not going to be getting substantially more technical than that because I really want to make sure that the message does sink in with those of you on the business and leadership side of things. But just let me use this analogy then to simplify that. If Defender Suite is about protecting the vault and defending against attackers trying to get into the vault, Purview Suite is about protecting the gold that's in the vault. And the gold in this case would be your sensitive files and your other information, including identities. So what's already sensitive and important to your business that's in the business, Purview Suite is there to help protect that or further protect that. Defender Suite is, well, let's make sure people or things don't get in the first place. So hopefully that clarifies. One is for protecting the vault, the other is about protecting what's in the vault. Here's a couple of additional examples that I hope will further clarify that. So imagine an attacker who has stolen username or somebody's username, like yourself, hopefully not, or a coworker, login credentials. And so now they've got this stuff, which is like the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. The attacker then tries to sign in from a location the user never visits. With basic protections like MFA, and that would be multi-factor authentication, the sign-in attempt can be blocked, but attackers increasingly rely on MFA fatigue, where the user is repeatedly prompted until they approve by mistake because it's, at the end of the day and I'm waiting for 5 o'clock to go home. And that's oftentimes when people start to get a little fatigued with all kinds of things. For many small businesses, this plays out in minutes. A stolen credential, a risky login, and then access to email, files, and cloud apps. That's why we need controls that don't just ask for MFA, but that evaluate risk in real time, where the system looks at the user, the device, the location, and the behavior, and then adjusts the response automatically. When an attack is detected, the goal is to contain it fast, block the risky sign-in, force a password reset, and limit access until the situation is safe so your team isn't chasing alerts after the fact. Here's another one. How about the scenario where an employee needs to share files quickly and uses a consumer file sharing app that isn't approved by IT? That is called shadow AI. And it is a problem. It's problematic for most businesses. And the smaller the organization, the more problematic it is. And that's not to suggest that most small businesses even recognize that it's a problem. I myself have encountered a variety of different partners and customers who, when asked the question, do you know what applications your staff and coworkers are using? And, just like, I don't know, right? And being honest, I don't know. But you can know and you ought to know. And so under a typical business premium setup, there's limited visibility and few levers to stop the upload once it happens. With an advanced security layer, you get continuous discovery of apps in use, risk scoring of those apps, and policies that can block risky uploads in real time. You can also steer users to approved services like OneDrive, for example, and get alerting and logs for compliance and investigation. That means you can prevent data leaks before they happen, keep collaboration fast, and still keep your data under control. You want to be able to say or to know, be aware of what apps your coworkers and employees are using. Because every time they're using an application, even if innocently, they're using it because, hey, it works. I had an event to plan the other day, right? We went golfing or something, and I used this app, and it was fantastic. It arranged everything. So here I am now at work. I'm going to use the same app. Why wouldn't I? It's going to help me to get stuff done. But if it's not approved by IT, that is an example, or that would be an example of shadow AI. Defender Suite for Business Premium provides an application that allows you to get a list of all of the apps that are being used. And if there are any that are non-compliant, it allows you now, as a business leader, I mean, IT can do this, but generally you want some collaboration between business and IT where you can have that conversation with the employee, or maybe if it's something that's widespread, provide some training for staff so that they can have better appreciation for using those things that are authorized and approved as opposed to things that are not compliant. And I'll just share this last demo before we keep moving. This one having to do with Purview Suite for Business Premium. The first two are about Defender Suite. Imagine someone needs to share a file quickly and uses a consumer cloud app to move it. With a basic business premium setup, you might have data loss prevention policies to scan for sensitive information, and you'll be able to block a risky email. But once that file leaves the endpoint, in other words, it's not on your laptop anymore or on your mobile device, goes to an unmanaged app, visibility and control evaporate. That's the gap we see again and again and again. Sensitive info can slip out through the apps that people rely on to get their work done. With a more advanced approach, the organization can detect the sensitive content on the device or in motion, stop the upload in real time, and make sure the right people know what happened. The controls we're talking about automatically identify sensitive data, block risky transfers, notify compliance, and keep an audit trail as well. If someone repeatedly tries to move sensitive files outside of approved channels, that behavior is flagged for review so you can address the root cause, not just the symptom. This is the difference between reacting after a leak and preventing the leak in the first place. Stop the risky action, keep data in approved apps, and give your team the evidence and the context that they're going to need to help close that loop. Okay, I want to save some time here to do it's referred to as a table topic, but it's more like a use case scenario. I've just given you some static use case examples, but we've got one that's fairly highly produced, and I want to share that with you. But let me stop sharing here for just a moment because I'm going to go somewhere here. Where is it? Here it is. No, here it is. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again right now. And I promise this is for technical folks, you're going to want more. And for folks that are not technical, you're going to say it's too much, potentially. So I'm going to be walking a fine line here. I'm just going to show very quickly some brief examples to provide some additional context of what's going on here. So for an IT person, they're going to be familiar with this view because this is the Defender portal where they're going to go and do their adminning, right? An IT admin will come here to admin. And so they're going to have different things to look at. But for those who are not a part of the IT side of the house, I just want you to have an appreciation, if you will, for everything that's going on that's available for your IT specialists, the tools that are available for them to use to really maximize the usefulness of something like Defender Suite for Business Premium. So this would be the home page. If you're not familiar with anything that you see on here, fantastic. Just appreciate the colors for right now. But there is something in particular that I'm looking for, and I just wanted to call out that ought to be of some interest. And here it is, the Secure Score. Having a Defender Suite license, Defender Suite for Business Premium, includes the stuff that you see here. But here's something that you ought to ask about. Ask your IT person about it. It's a free resource, Secure Score 63.23%. What that indicates is for this business, they have, let me try this again. Because they have the Defender license or a Defender license, there are certain features that you can enable and there are other features you can disable. The 63.23% reflects what's enabled and what's not enabled. Does that mean you have to enable or turn everything on? It may make sense depending on the nature of your business or the industry that you're in. For example, healthcare, legal professions, finance, it's likely they're going to enable anything they can enable because of the nature of their business. So it's not to say that you can't do that. And therefore, it's not to say that the Secure Score has to be at 100%. What needs to happen is you need to look at the percentage, 63.23%. What does that mean? And then your IT folks, perhaps with business leadership sitting next to them, can drill into this to see, well, okay, here's what's enabled. Here are the things that aren't. Do we need to enable these things or not? And if we do need to enable them, should we enable them now? How is it going to impact the business? Is it going to slow down the flow of email? And a whole bunch of other things. So it's not simply a case of, oh, only 63.2, let's turn everything else on. No, let's do everything in a layered approach. This is just to keep you on your toes, make you aware of what your security posture looks like. So I just wanted to call that out so that you're aware that it exists. It's called Secure Score. Now, over here on the left, the second thing that I'm going to share, three things I'm going to point out. This is the second one. Off to the left here is a click-through, so that's why that's highlighted. But I'm going here to incidents and alerts. And the reason why I want to just show you very quickly incidents and alerts, there's something called, I'm going to get very technical here, but using Defender, there's multiple tools in that family. And instead of having to go and look at a different portal for each of the different tools, Microsoft has created the Defender portal so that your IT folks can see all of the different signals in one place. I think that was simple enough. Okay. All of the signals in one place, or the alerts. And so a person can come here to alerts, and they'll see a boatload of individual alerts of things that have happened or are happening. Aren't you glad that you're not in IT if that's the case? You have to look at all of this stuff. But for an IT person, this could become a little bit blinding as well. So that's what they can look at when they're hearing the alerts, which are individual signals. But right above that, it says incidents. Why does that matter? Because incidents are the containers that contain the related alerts. Defender will actually look at all of the alerts and then group together the ones that are actually related. What that does, and it makes it beneficial to an IT person so they can immediately, or in shorter terms, recognize that the attack isn't just on one person, but it's across the organization potentially, or a particular group. It just allows them to save some time in terms of how they arrive at determining what has taken place, understanding how widespread or not a particular attack is. So the alerts are the individual ones. The incidents are what Defender does to group these things together so they can make a little bit more sense. And that's all I'll say about that. The last thing that I want to share with you here, which I think might be hopefully more significant to a non-IT person, IT also, but to a non-IT person, has to do with training, different trainings that are available. So I'm going to click here, email and collaborations. Let's see, attack simulation training. You can see hopefully down here in the lower left-hand corner. And let me show you what the attack simulation training is. There is a 1-minute video I'm going to show. It's a longer video. I'm only going to show you a minute, and that'll help to speed up the explanation so we can keep moving on. Now, what did I do with it? I'm going to just stop sharing again very briefly. I'm going to pull this up. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again right now. Whoops. Started before I was ready. Okay. Sharing. Okay, let's do it.
Attack simulation training is an intelligent phish risk reduction tool that empowers employees to prevent attacks, measure users' awareness of phishing risk, provide actionable insights and recommendations to use hyper-targeted training that can change users' behavior, and then measure behavioral change through repeated simulations. All of this right in the Microsoft 365 Defender portal. On the attack simulation training page, you see the most recent simulations you've run. Plus, you know how many users in your org have experienced simulations and the percentage of users who have completed related trainings. On the right, you see how users' behaviors have impacted the compromise rate over time. And my favorite is the chart at the bottom of the page that describes the number of repeat offenders broken out by the type of attack. Of course, you can drill into this data with relevant filters to identify those people who need a bit more training to avoid these attacks. Next to that is a short list of simulations that we recommend you run and why.
All right, so that's it. But I wanted to share that because that gets straight to the point of what it is that I was sharing with you here. So let me get back to my slide deck and we'll continue from there. I'm going to share again right now. So this is where we were, and that video clip was describing this. It's where you can thoughtfully create some simulation trainings that get sent out to your staff company-wide. And this is also to help keep them on their toes in terms of knowing what to look out for. We're in the era of AI. And regardless of which AI tool you're looking to implement or have implemented into your business, the weakest point when it comes to security is the human. And with AI, you want to have a level of comfort in knowing that your staff is alert to different attempts to try and get into your business by people using AI. And so this, I see that question. If you are in the Defender portal, in the menu to the left, you should see attack simulation training in the menu to the left under, if you click on email and collaboration, if you have that. Okay, so let me move back to something else now with the time that we have left. I did stop sharing, but that's because I'm going to switch gears and have you take a look at this. Just a moment. Okay, let me just pause this. I'm going to share my screen again right now. That it would share it, and it's taking a while. Okay, because this, I think, will help to cement what I've been describing in terms of the value of, here we go, the value of putting some boundaries in place, because that's really what we're talking about here. Microsoft 365 Copilot, or Copilot for Business for an SMB company, that's Microsoft's AI per user, right? So when you assign a license to a user, it's going to function. It is an AI-powered digital assistant, and it is going to function as an assistant for that user. If the concern is, well, it's AI, is my data, is my information still protected? Is it going to remain protected? The answer is yes, if you have the appropriate policies and permissions in place for that user. Copilot is going to live within the same constraints that are in place for the user. If you don't want Copilot to have access to your most confidential and sensitive info in your business, that has to mean you don't want the user to have access to that either. It's going to inherit the security, the privacy, the identity, and the compliance policies that are in place. It's not going to overwrite anything. It's not going to add some type of new security breach or anything like that. It's designed to work with Microsoft. It's Microsoft Copilot. It will work with Microsoft policies, permissions, and restrictions. So here is a use case example. And this one is what I was talking about, highly produced. Hopefully you'll like it. But it's a scenario about a company it's not real, but it's an example of a small and medium-sized business. So let's call them Van Arsdale Limited. They're an elite full-service accounting firm, which unfortunately has been hit by a cyber attack. A few of their employees scanned a QR code that, in hindsight, they shouldn't have. It came in, it was a hand-delivered, I almost said email. It was a hand-delivered mail, so snail mail, I think that's what we are calling it now. And it was part of a note that acknowledged the great work those individuals were doing at Van Arsdale. So it looked very legit. But when some of the recipients scanned the QR code, what they didn't know was that it connected to a phishing website where the attackers were waiting to gain access to the company's sensitive files and information. So let's go through this together.
Friday afternoon, Jennifer's phone rings. The MSP partner has urgent news.
We found 2 more compromised accounts. This is bigger than we thought.
Holly Reese and Joseph Grech show the same attack pattern as George. Login abuse, unusual file access, off-hours downloads. The results of the analysis are devastating. The attackers have been in the network for 3 weeks. During that time, they exfiltrated over 47 gigabytes of data comprising of 1,247 files. Tax returns, legal documents, financial plans, consulting reports, and personal client correspondence. In all, over 150 clients are potentially affected. Then Grace Owens receives an email that raises the stakes even further. A ransom email with the subject line,
"Your client data is not as secure as you think.
The contents of the message is simple and to the point.
We have 47 gigabytes of sensitive client data from Van Arsdale. Tax returns, your client's personal family matters, estate plans, acquisition strategies, attorney-client privileged communications. Pay $500,000 in cryptocurrency within 72 hours, or we start to publish everything, one client at a time. Your clients will know you couldn't protect their most sensitive information. Your reputation will be destroyed. Your firm will be finished."
They include a sample, file names, client names, and document previews. proof they have exactly what they claim. Grace calls an emergency leadership meeting. Jennifer and the MSP are on the call. The crisis is real. The clock is ticking. There's only 72 hours to decide. 3 incidents, 47 gigabytes stolen, 72 hours to decide. How will you respond?
So I could just pick something here, but let me see if someone wants to volunteer. And all of these are correct, but only one of them is regarded as being a better response. What do you think is the response to go with here? And I'll accept if you would actually do something completely different, but if someone wants to just, have some fun and help us out here and select one of these, we'll go with it and see what it looks like. No? E? Okay. So Robert is suggesting or recommending E. Well, let's go with E. So pay the ransom to prevent data publication, not notify law enforcement and affected clients immediately, not negotiate with attackers to buy time, not attempt to identify and close the vulnerability quickly. But what we're going to do is engage the emergency incident response firm.
You bring in the experts. Grace authorizes an $85,000 emergency engagement with a specialized cybersecurity incident response firm. A 2-person advance team is actively engaged in less than 4 hours. Outcomes. Professional forensic investigation begins immediately. Incident response team has experience with similar attacks. They provide structured response plan and timeline. $85,000 for emergency services that may still take days to complete. You're still dependent on what is in your existing logs. Incident response team is only as good as the data you can provide. Discussion points. Is $85,000 per emergency incident response a sustainable security strategy? What if your security combined the signals with automation to prevent the emergency entirely? What's the value of having the right capabilities built in versus paying for crisis response?
It's possible to make some improvements.
Van Arsdale discovered the breach only after the data was already stolen. The ransom demand arrived before they even understood the full scope. The crisis became, how do we respond to extortion? But the real question should have been, how do we prevent the exfiltration in the first place? So what went wrong? There was no visibility into the unusual data access patterns and no automated blocking of bulk file transfers. This led to a 3-week gap between compromise and detection. The manual investigation couldn't keep pace with the attackers with the ransom demand arriving before Van Arsdale even knew what exactly was taken. Here's what could have helped. Van Arsdale can leverage the combined capabilities of the Microsoft Defender Suite and Microsoft Purview suites for Business Premium. Defender XDR would have identified all 3 compromised accounts within hours of the first QR code scan. Automated investigation would have mapped the attack chain automatically, without the need for a days-long manual forensic examination. Entra ID protection would have flagged session token abuse patterns immediately. Purview data loss prevention would have automatically detected and prevented the export of the sensitive client files. Purview insider risk management would have alerted on the unusual access patterns of George Mass downloading files with sensitive content paired with suspicious login activity. Audit Premium would have provided visibility into which files were opened versus just being downloaded. Narrowing the scope of the investigation, using the solutions together would help make the difference. The ransom email would never have been sent because the attackers couldn't exfiltrate enough data to make their threat credible. Purview data loss prevention would have blocked the downloads, and Defender XDR would have identified the compromise before massive exfiltration occurred.
All right, so I'll stop that there with what time we have left. And let me see what else I would like for you to see before we wrap things up here. Okay, so let me go back. I'm still sharing. Okay. So I'm hopeful that was a little bit of relief from having to just look at slides throughout the entirety of this. But it was an example of, as you heard, where something like a Defender Suite for Business Premium or Purview Suite for Business Premium together, actually, would have been a solution to proactively protect that business. And there was reference to Defender XDR. That's what I kind of described earlier without saying that, but Defender XDR, extended detection and response, is again where the various Defender tools that you have are visible in one location, and it allows for an IT person to see what's happening in a single view, plus the alerts and the incidents feature that I showed you there as well. That would help them to recognize how widespread an attack is much more quickly than if they have to go through everything one by one. So why choose Defender Suite? Those are some reasons that you see there for the enhanced security, reduced costs, especially if it's a Defender Suite for Business Premium, and it's industry recognized. And from a cost perspective, these are MSRP, all right? And this is as far down this path as I'm going to go. You're going to want to have the detailed conversation about pricing with vTECH, but 65%, that's where I froze. About 65% cost reduction per license is what you could expect somewhere in that neighborhood versus the individual components. So off to the far left, those are licenses that you can get one by one. But why do that when they all exist and are available for you to use in something like Defender Suite for Business Premium? And Defender Suite for Business Premium is today only $10 SRP, and you can validate that on Microsoft's website, per user per month, but it's an annual subscription. So full transparency, take that 10 and multiply it by 12, and that actually is the annual subscription that that's in reference to. The other thing having to do with Purview Suite for Business Premium, with this is also a next step for you. The next step to turn that baseline Business Premium into a full data security and compliance program. Business Premium good, far better from a security perspective than a Business Basic or Business Standard, but because we're talking about AI and threats that are coming in that are powered by AI, my encouragement to you is to bundle that Copilot that you're working with today or planning to get in the near future with something like a Purview Suite or a Defender Suite for your Business Premium. And from a cost perspective, this regular price is 10, but there is a promo in place for Purview Suite for Business Premium until the end of June. So it's actually $10 right now. I'm sorry, it's actually $5 per user per month, annual subscription, so multiply by 12. And this is the benefit and the saving you could look forward to there. You can also get both of these in a single license. If you think, I like Purview Suite for Business Premium and I like Defender Suite for Business Premium, so I'm going to get both licenses, that's great that you want to do that, but instead of having to get them separately, there is a third license, let me say it that way. Off to the far right, you can get both of them together in a single license. And it is $15 per user per month, annual subscription. So if you prefer the layered approach, get one and then get the next. Or if you're thinking we can actually make use of both of these because we want to start rolling out Copilot and we want at some point for most of our employees, if not all of them, to start using Copilot, we want to get both, then get both out of the gate as a single license, Defender and Purview Suite for Business Premium. And I want to share this with you also for further context. So Microsoft 365 E5, if you're not familiar with it, that used to be the hero SKU. E7 is now, I mentioned that off the top. But E5, it has, Office, Word, Excel, and all that good stuff. But it also includes these these security features that you see here on the left. So everything that you see here is what you're going to find in an E5, which is why all of these boxes are checked. And notice at the bottom, $57 to get an E5 license with your Office apps and all of these great security features. Now, let me take you all the way over to the far right. You can get the Defender and Purview suites for Business Premium. Remember that combination license I just finished talking about? It gives you all the same security features. Only, Microsoft says, $15 US per user per month times 12. So you don't have to get an E5 license. Stick with your Business Premium and get these two together. These two together equal this. And if you're thinking,
Nice.
we're not ready to do both together, okay, then pick one of these to start with. My recommendation would be Purview Suite for Business Premium, because this is where you get sensitivity labels. And the sensitivity labels are going to be very useful to you with Copilot and in this era of AI, because it allows you to label your various files and documents. So if something is meant to be confidential, you can apply a label that says confidential. And if that means that I, as a user, don't have access to that confidential file because of the confidential label, my using Copilot doesn't help me at all. It won't have access to it either. And so that's why I'm suggesting this is probably a great place to start in lieu of getting these two together. But that's up to you. Have the conversation with vTech, and they'll set you straight so that you're properly protected. I think this is this is the last thing that I'll share with you. All right. Key points. Defender is better, or to defend is better, whether it's Defender or Purview. Governance is smarter, and you can do things more simply because it's been simplified by the fact that there are a couple of solutions now available for you as SMB businesses where the price point is more reasonable. And that's what I hope you're able to take away. Any questions or comments about anything that I've shared with you today?
We can just put them in chat, or now we can pop them out if you're interested.
Yeah. Oh, there's quite a few things in here. Wow, there's a lot. Okay. Any questions that are in the chat that remain unanswered? Maybe I can do that.
Yeah, there was quite a few along the way. Okay. Maybe you did a good job, Andrew. I think we're good. Yeah, so I guess I'll close it down, and we'll send a follow-up email. But you can get all of these licenses through us. We do have a CSP portal that we manage for Microsoft. We also do tenant audits and tenant management and all of that, SharePoint type stuff, whatever you might need in the Microsoft world, and definitely the AI front as well. Everything from prompt engineering training to actually customization of Copilot or building agents or any type of thing you might need there securely. So, Andrew, it's been a pleasure as always.
Okay.
I really appreciate you and the great information, and we'll capture this recording and send it out as well to those that could not make it. So, everyone have a great day.